left wheel, arch. Iowas, forward, arch.
Colors, halt.
Colors, right, arch. Reason, full. Detail, halt.
And thank you to the Lansing Police Honor Guard for that. Hi everyone, and thank you so much for joining us virtually for this year's annual Lansing Police Awards ceremony. I'm Siobhan Klepfer from WLNS TV6 right here in Lansing. It is once again an honor for me to be helping out with this very special event. Obviously, 2020 has forced us to do things a little bit differently. But that wasn't going to stop the Lansing Police Department from honoring and recognizing the amazing officers, sergeants, lieutenants, and community and agency partners. Now more than ever, it's important that we highlight the good things, right, that are happening and have happened, and highlight how brave, hardworking, and amazing the members of the Lansing Police Department are. You have done incredible work, and I am so glad that I get to be the one to share these amazing stories with you today. We'll get to that in just a moment, but first, I would like to introduce Police Chaplain Rosalinda Hernandez for the invocation.
If you would please stand with me. Father, we thank you for this time. We invite your presence here with us. We ask that you look over us as we do this award ceremony. We ask you, God, that you would please give to the people that are here your blessing. We thank you for gathering us together. We thank you for keeping us safe. And we thank you most of all for your love and commitment to our city and our state and our nation. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Rosalinda. I would now like to introduce City of Lansing Mayor Andy Shore for his remarks.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the 2020 Lansing Police Department's virtual annual awards ceremony, honoring all of our 2019 award recipients. This past year has been a very challenging yet successful year. We, of course, would prefer to honor our recipients in person. However, this year has been very unique due to the COVID-19 virus, so we've decided to hold our first virtual awards ceremony for the Lansing Department. I'm very proud of the entire department and their day-to-day efforts, and especially over the past 7 months as we've experienced a pandemic event. COVID-19 changed our daily operations with officer safety, including temperature checks, sanitizing, social distancing, and wearing masks. And after each shift, police vehicles and equipment are decontaminated. During this time, we've also experienced unprecedented protests for social justice and racial equality and equity. The Lansing Police Department continues to work with the community to build stronger bonds and learn from one another. Throughout these times, our officers and support staff have conducted themselves with the utmost professionalism and dedication to continue working for the safety and justice of the citizens of Lansing. This year, we have outstanding awardees who've done extraordinary accomplishments and achievements, and I congratulate each one of them. Thank you for helping us honor our employees, our law enforcement partners, and all of our citizen recipients.
Thank you, Mayor Shore. And now I'd like to introduce Board of Police Commissioners Chairperson Patty Farhat for her remarks.
Hello, everyone. I'm Patty Farhat, the current chair of the Lansing Board of Police Commissioners, and I bring greetings on behalf of the board. This is our first attempt to hold a virtual award ceremony, and we hope you enjoy it and discover how special our police department is and how special the citizens of Lansing are. The subcommittee meets year-round to go through all of the awards. It's a lot of work, but well worth it. You will see and hear why I say this. Thanks to our police personnel who put their lives on the line every single day, these awards will highlight the instances where they go above and beyond. Also, thanks to the citizens of Michigan and Lansing who receive an award today as well for their help in stopping the bad guy and saving lives in many cases. We are blessed to have these individuals on our team. The city of Lansing would not be the wonderful city to work and play and live in if it were not for these outstanding individuals. So thank you for tuning in. We appreciate being able to bring this ceremony to the forefront. Be well, stay safe, and God bless.
Patty, thank you. And now I would like to introduce Lansing Police Chief Daryl Green. He has a lot of things he would like to say today.
Hello, and welcome everyone to our annual awards ceremony. This is certainly one of our favorite programs of the year, and every day I am reminded of the empathy, compassion, and heroism that is displayed by our sworn officers and civilian employees. The award narratives you will hear during this program are a testament to employee professionalism and the highest level of public service, dedication, and honor to the city of Lansing. As a result of COVID-19, this is our first virtual awards ceremony in the 127-year history of the Lansing Police Department. I credit this ceremony as the collaboration and work of our staff members, Mayor's Office, the Police Board of Commissioners, the Information Technology Department, and most notably, the Lansing Public Media Center. Thank you all for your hard work on this project. I also want to thank the family, friends, and community that support our police officers and civilian staff every day of the year. The people of this great city are truly our greatest asset, and it's an honor to serve alongside you all to make Lansing a great community. 2020 has certainly been a year of challenges, and our ability as a department to be flexible and agile in the delivery of public safety services has allowed us to demonstrate the highest level of professionalism in navigating the best courses of actions for our citizens and employees during a national pandemic. While we continue to face adversity daily, as a result, I thank our city for their patience, diligence, and support during these tough times. Thank you all. This year, we have another list of outstanding awardees who have performed extraordinary accomplishments and achievements that were well beyond the call of duty. However, if you ask these awardees what they did to receive an award today, they will humbly state, "I was just doing my job." Our awardees invoke the spirit of public service and illuminate high levels of dedication and professionalism. They rise to the occasion every day in some of the most challenging and complex environments. As you watch this ceremony and hear the short summaries of their awards, I ask that you take a moment to critically reflect on our awardees' sacrifice, commitment, empathy, and passion to make the city of Lansing a safer place for all that live, work, and visit this great city, which is a byproduct of our new motto, Neighborhood Strong. To the awardees, I ask that you take a moment to allow your family, friends, city, and police chief to recognize your exemplary service and express our gratitude for your selfless sacrifice. You have earned the right for us to recognize you today. Today's awards demonstrate that our officers and support staff have conducted themselves with the utmost of professionalism and dedication while seeking safety and justice in the city of Lansing. Their efforts have saved lives, reduced crime, brought violent offenders to justice, established and strengthened relationships with our community members, and sought to spread goodwill and pride in public service. For that, as a community, we say thank you and congratulations to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Green. All right, now the fun part, the awards. Ooh, I love this part. All right, let's begin with Officer Lindsey Howley. On January 23rd, 2019, officers were dispatched to assist Child Protective Services in the removal of 4 children from an apartment on Simkin Avenue. Officers Lindsey Howley and Tyler Stelgis assisted with security and collecting the children and their belongings. Officer Howley went into the kitchen to contact an emotional 13-year-old female. The female immediately retreated into the living room holding a large kitchen knife. Officer Howley immediately responded by placing herself between the child and the other children and the CPS worker who were in the general area. With a chair barrier between herself and the juvenile, Officer Howley continued using verbal commands while tactically closing the gap between her and the 13-year-old. When a window of opportunity presented itself, Officer Howley quickly moved in and disarmed the 13-year-old. Officer Stelgis quickly secured the knife, prevented family members from interfering, and assisted in securing the youth. And ultimately, the 13-year-old was transported to receive medical care. Children being removed from a home is always tense and emotional for all involved. Officers are often faced with quick, unfolding events, which makes it difficult to plan. Officer Howley immediately responded to a potential lethal threat while correctly considering the priority of life scale. While a range of options were available, Officer Howley took decisive and brave action, preventing serious harm to the child and others while placing herself in jeopardy. Officer Howley knew the danger, but took purposeful action to positively resolve the situation. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Officer Lindsey Howley is awarded the department's departmental citation. Lieutenant Brian Curtis, Lieutenant Jeremy Churchill, Sergeant Wesley Vaughn, Officer Jacob Marchini, Officer Matthew Meaton. On November 11, 2019, several Lansing police officers were dispatched to the 1800 block of Michigan Avenue on a shots being fired complaint. Dispatch updated the responding officers on a description of the suspect doing the shooting. Upon arrival, Sergeants Brian Curtis and Jeremy Churchill made contact with the subject that matched the description of the person firing the shots. Both sergeants kept their distance and attempted to communicate with the extremely hostile and uncooperative subject. Shortly after making contact with him, they identified that he was in possession of a firearm. Additional units were asked to assist. Officers Andrew Dama, Kyle Jenkins, Jacob Marchini, Matthew Meaton, and Ethan Merlick arrived on the scene. They negotiated with the subject for nearly 15 minutes, attempting to get him to surrender to no avail. At this point, officers Benjamin Perry and Wesley Vaughn arrived on scene with a start shield and less lethal firearm. The subject continued to be confrontational and uncooperative, reaching toward his waistband on several different occasions. Sergeant Curtis then instructed Officer Vaughn to deploy his less lethal firearm. This allowed Officer Meaton to tackle the subject in an attempt to secure the firearm. A short struggle ensued, and the other officers on scene ended up successfully securing the firearm and the subject. The assisting officers on scene showed extraordinary valor and patience in the midst of an incredibly hostile situation with a violent offender, which undoubtedly prevented more harm from being done to them or others. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Lieutenant Brian Curtis, Lieutenant Jeremy Churchill, Sergeant Wesley Vaughn, Officer Jacob Marchini, and Officer Matthew Meaton are awarded the department's departmental citation. Officer Austin Brown. On July 14th, 2019, Officers Austin Brown, Alina Harrington, Christopher Brooks, and Alex Slobin responded to the 300 block of Carey Street regarding a shots fired complaint. Central Dispatch advised that a subject with no shirt was shooting a handgun. Prior to their arrival on scene, they were informed that the subject was now breaking out windows to vehicles in the roadway. When Officers Brown and Harrington arrived, they observed a physical fight in the middle of Carey Street involving several people. They immediately began running toward the fight. As they got closer, they were informed by other individuals on scene that one of the subjects might still have a gun in his possession. The accused subject was on top of another male, still throwing punches, when Officer Brown tackled him to the ground. Officer Harrington quickly grabbed a hold of the subject's left arm, while Officer Brown concentrated on the right arm. The subject continued to resist, would not respond to commands from officers, and had his arms tucked under his chest. Eventually, they were able to secure the subject. Officers Brown and Harrington used extraordinary verbal commands, compliance control, and physical control to get the subject secured in handcuffs. Officers Brown and Harrington should be recognized for their actions in apprehending the subject that was possibly armed. Their actions prevented further injury to other citizens at the scene. In addition, Officers Christopher Brooks and Alex Slobin should be recognized for their assistance at the scene. The scene was extremely chaotic with multiple witnesses and victims. Even under the difficult situation, they were able to manage the scene while simultaneously collecting information and evidence that resulted in several charges on the subject. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Officer Austin Brown is awarded the department's departmental citation. Officer Corey Crenshaw, Officer Anthony Vandevoorty. On July 3rd, 2019, Officers Corey Crenshaw, Anthony Vandevoorty, and Jake Ellis responded to a subject hanging off the bridge in the 300 block of East Saginaw. Officer Crenshaw made verbal commands in contact with the subject and attempted to persuade him to back over the railing, away from harm. The subject was crying and emotionally distraught. He was not responding to Officer Crenshaw's requests. Officer Crenshaw began to move closer, minimizing the gap as he tried to establish a rapport with the subject. Officer Vandevoorty began communicating with the subject as Officer Crenshaw continued to move closer to the subject, still hanging on the bridge. Officers were aware that directly below the subject was shallow water and large rocks. If the subject were to jump off the bridge, he would have sustained life-threatening injuries or even death. Officers observed the subject increase his nervous rocking back and forth on the bridge and believed he was about to jump. Officer Crenshaw seized the opportunity to move in when he observed the subject close his eyes. Officer Crenshaw grabbed the subject in sort of a bear hug fashion to physically hold him against the railing so he didn't fall. Officer Crenshaw used strength and leverage to pull the subject over the railing to safety. Officer Jake Ellis assisted Officer Crenshaw with pulling the subject over the railing. The officers involved used professional communication skills and extraordinary patience with an emotional subject who felt helpless and considered hurting himself, ultimately saving his life. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Officer Corey Crenshaw and Officer Anthony Vandevoorty are awarded the department's Life-Saving Award. Officer Morgan Schaefer. On June 22, 2019, the Lansing Township Police Department was dispatched to an address on Snowglen Lane for a check welfare suicidal subject. The call reported his wife was distraught and had wandered into the woods north of the residence. Lansing Township officers located the woman near the bank of the Grand River, and as they approached, she jumped into the Grand River. At that time of the year, the Grand River water was at an elevated level and had an extremely strong current. While in the water, the female made suicidal statements and indicated she wanted to drown herself. Lansing Township officers quickly requested mutual aid from the Lansing Police Department. Lansing police officers Morgan Schaefer and Michael Van Beek responded to the scene and provided immediate assistance. Officer Van Beek, currently a Tri-County area dive team member, formulated a plan. Officer Schaefer took the initiative to make contact with the female and developed a rapport. Despite the tense situation, Officer Schaefer's one-on-one communication began to calm her down. Officer Schaefer engaged in an extended conversation with the female, allowing the other officers to develop a strategy to safely remove the female from the river. During this time, Officer Schaefer was able to gain the subject's trust and convince the female to move closer to the shore. Officer Schaefer then entered the water while continuing to talk to the subject. As the female came closer to Officer Schaefer seized the opportunity to reach out and grab onto her. Officer Schaefer was able to hold the subject as Officer Van Beek and Lansing Township officers entered the river and pulled the female from the water. This was a very chaotic and potentially deadly encounter with the suicidal subject and the always dangerous Grand River water. Officers Schaefer and Van Beek's courage and swift action, without question, saved the life of this female. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Officer Morgan Schaefer is awarded the department's Life-Saving Award. Haley Wilkins. On November 11th, 2019, Officer Jillian Colby was dispatched to a possible overdose in the Kroger grocery store located at 921 West Holmes Road. Upon her arrival, Lansing Fire Department personnel were already treating a male subject. Officer Colby elected to take a statement from witness Haley Wilkins, a pharmacist working during that time. Wilkins stated that she is a pharmacist in Kroger and heard a commotion near the bathrooms. Shortly after, several females ran out yelling for help. Wilkins went into the bathroom and found an unresponsive male lying on the ground who was turning blue. Wilkins immediately called 911 and then proceeded to run back and grab Narcan from the pharmacy. Wilkins administered one 4-milligram dose into the subject's nostril. After a few minutes, the Narcan had a positive effect and the male subject regained consciousness. Without a doubt, Haley Wilkins' quick, decisive response saved the male subject's life. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Haley Wilkins is awarded the department's Civilian Life-Saving Award. Officer Kasha Osborne. In August of 2019, Sergeant Jeremy Churchill was dispatched to a home on Stafford for a welfare check at the request of LPD social worker Jane Bidwell. The residence was occupied by two sisters, Pamela and Rose Miller, who were about to be evicted from the residence. The Millers had lived in the house since they were children and took over ownership of the residence after the death of their parents. However, they had not paid the city taxes, and the house was therefore turned over to the county land bank for tax sale. Sergeant Churchill immediately contacted Officer Kasha Osborne and asked for her assistance. He was worried that the Millers had nowhere to go and would potentially become homeless when their home was foreclosed on. He explained that one of the sisters was visually impaired and had an apparent behavioral disorder that contributed to their mistrust of others. Officer Osborne expressed her understanding of the complex dynamics of the situation and wanted to help the sisters. Kasha wasted no time building a rapport with Pam and Rose upon arriving at the house with lunch and began to discuss the issues at hand. Being the genuine, caring, and charismatic person that Kasha is, she was quickly able to gain the trust of the Miller sisters. Pulling on her countless resources, Kasha secured an apartment on South Washington for the Miller sisters. She spent numerous hours setting up and obtaining moving material and helping the sisters pack their possessions. Kasha recruited volunteers from the police department to help move the sisters into their new apartment. The Millers are now settling into a residence that they can afford and are making new memories. When Sergeant Churchill asked Kasha for help with this delicate situation, he could not have imagined how much time and resources it would involve. He firmly believes that Kasha went above and beyond the call of duty to help these two elderly sisters who would have undoubtedly fallen through the cracks. When Sergeant Churchill thanked Kasha for all the time and effort that she put in to ensure the safety and well-being of these sisters, she said, "I did what anyone would have done." However, that pretty much describes Kasha selflessly going above and beyond every day. So on behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Officer Kasha Osborne is awarded the department's individual commendation. Detention Officer Damon Shirelle. Detention Officer Damon Shirelle meets all of the qualities a detention officer with the City of Lansing should have. His attitude, diligence, dependability, and exceptional work ethic make him the ideal candidate for this honor. Detention Officer Shirelle has been a respected leader in the detention unit work group by both his peers and supervisors for nearly 7 years and is a trusted and knowledgeable employee. He is a training officer and, due to continual hiring needs at the jail, has been utilized continuously this year without a break to guide and evaluate new recruits without complaint. He fulfills this role with enthusiasm and attention to detail, which shows how much he genuinely cares about the training program and ensuring that our new recruits are performing to standard. Detention Officer Shirelle understands the big picture within the detention unit and is continuously ready to play the necessary role to move the unit forward no matter the assignment. He is always willing to take on additional responsibilities such as updating jail policies and field training procedures, routinely volunteering to cover open shifts so his peers won't be forced into work, and sitting on detention hiring panels twice this past year outside of his work days. He assisted Human Resources in successfully hiring 7 new detention officers in 2019, and his expertise and perspective were very much appreciated in the process. Detention Officer Shirelle continues to advocate for the unit and is always willing to help his peers if there's work to be done, even if it's outside of his assigned work area. The Lansing Police Department is an innovator and leader in community policing, and that philosophy extends from our road patrol into our detention facility. Detention Officer Shirelle embodies our core values and helps to push LPD's mission to those coming into our facility by treating everyone that he encounters with dignity and respect, furthering our reputation and legitimacy within our community. This includes not only inmates, but court staff, outside law enforcement agencies, and vendors who visit the jail. His supervisors have taken note of his professionalism by recommending and presenting him with unit awards on multiple occasions in 2019. Detention Officer Shirelle is a consummate professional who never complains and is willing to sacrifice his time and talents to improve matters for everyone he encounters. He is the prime example of what all of our employees, civilian or sworn, should strive to emulate. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Officer Damon Shirelle is awarded the department's Individual Commendation Award. Sergeant Bradley Ho, Officer John Cosme. On January 7th, 2019, officers from the Special Operations Section were on surveillance assisting the Eaton County Sheriff's Department looking for a wanted homicide suspect. Assisting SOS Officer Bradley Ho received an emergency message from a police informant stating that there was a subject planning to rob the Chase Bank on South Pennsylvania. Officer Ho received a detailed description of who was planning the robbery and information on how it would happen. With this information, he and Officer Cosme contacted the local FBI to assist. A detailed operation plan was put into place with the following assistance from Officer Mottman, Officer Biesinger, Officer Hahn, Detective Scroggins, and Agent Hamilton. The team established surveillance on the bank as well as the hotel where the accused was believed to be staying. The team observed the identified suspect leaving the hotel, heading toward the bank wearing a ski mask. Once the suspect entered onto the property at the bank, officers made contact. The suspect attempted to run away on foot. He was quickly apprehended by Officer Cosme with assistance from the other officers. A robbery note intended for the bank teller and a realistic-looking plastic gun were recovered on the suspect. The suspect was interviewed and confessed to his plan to rob the bank. Agent Coffin and the FBI contacted the Assistant United States Attorney, who agreed to pursue the suspect in federal court. Without the fast action of Officer Ho and Officer Cosme developing information, along with the assistance they got from other agencies on a moment's notice, this would surely have been a dangerous bank robbery. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Sergeant Bradley Ho and Officer John Cosme are awarded the department's individual commendation. Officer Cara Freeman. Officer Cara Freeman demonstrates all of the qualities an officer with the City of Lansing should have. Officer Freeman comes to work with a positive attitude and is prepared to handle any call that comes her way. Officer Freeman interacts with the public in a positive manner and always displays her true character, which is a knowledgeable officer who is trustworthy and caring. As the call load gets busy, Officer Freeman stays positive and focused and always offers to help take calls north or south. She has received many compliments from Ingham County Dispatch, stating Officer Freeman makes their job so much easier by volunteering for calls that are holding and always having a positive attitude. Officer Freeman is a true lead-by-example officer and encourages fellow officers to always go above and beyond for the community they serve. Officer Freeman routinely puts intelligence bulletins together to pass out to fellow officers identifying problem areas where special attention is needed. She is a wealth of knowledge and uses her resources to develop leads to pass on to others, which oftentimes ends with an arrest or being able to solve and close a case. In addition to being a great patrol investigator, Officer Freeman is the department's leading expert on gang activity and is a certified gang expert, and she is always willing to share her gang knowledge with other officers to make sure that all areas of the city are safe from gang activity. Officer Freeman recently took on the responsibility of being a field training officer and a mentor for new officers of the Lansing Police Department. Officer Freeman took it upon herself to make narcotics kits for the new officers and ensured that they knew how to use them. She also put together resource binders on her own time, giving new hires contacts throughout the Tri-County area and identifying many less frequently handled calls and possible solutions to those incidents. As an FTO, Officer Freeman is patient and takes the time to explain any and all questions that a new officer might have. She goes above and beyond explaining a policy or procedure and then follows up with the new officers to make sure that they not only understand it, but also know how to complete the task properly. Officer Freeman makes herself available not only for her own recruits, but for any new officer in need of extra help or guidance. Many new officers have praised and credited Officer Freeman for her generosity and encouragement while they successfully complete their training. In addition to her duties as a patrol officer and field training officer, Officer Freeman is a member of the department's subject control training cadre. In this instructor position, Officer Freeman assists in researching, creating, and conducting defensive tactics training for all sworn members of the Lansing Police Department. This position requires Officer Freeman to maintain many instructor-level certifications above and beyond her day-to-day job functions. Officer Freeman is always the first to volunteer for training events, and her tireless effort in the model of what is expected from a trainer at the Lansing Police Department. Recently, Officer Freeman has taken the lead on projects that entails bringing self-defense training to women throughout the Lansing area. The Lansing Police Department's women's self-defense seminars are always well attended and are in high demand throughout the year. Officer Freeman takes pride in showing women and girls in the community the skills necessary to protect themselves from becoming victims. Overall, Officer Freeman's role as a trainer with the Lansing Police Department is yet another example of her dedication to service both to our agency and the greater Lansing community. What doesn't she do? Officer Freeman shows on a daily basis the qualities that an officer with the Lansing Police Department should have. She is hardworking, determined, knowledgeable, personable, and above all, dedicated to the citizens of Lansing and the Lansing Police Department. She shows her commitment to the Lansing Police Department and her community by going above and beyond every day to ensure the lives of everyone she has contact with is improved in some way. Officer Freeman is a tremendous asset to the Lansing Police Department and the city of Lansing in general. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Officer Cara Freeman is awarded the department's Individual Commendation Award. Officer Dylan Royst. Officer Dylan Royst displays all the qualities a community police officer should have. His attitude, diligence, dependability, and exceptional work ethic made him the ideal candidate for this honor. Officer Royst is the community police officer for the downtown area. Officer Royst has received a lot of positive feedback from downtown business owners during his time as their community policing officer. For example, he has been commended for regularly checking in person at the businesses and for his quick response to concerns shared with him in person, in calls, and more. Several longtime business owners, and we're talking people located downtown for 20 plus years, have stated multiple times that he is the best community policing officer that the downtown area has had in at least 5 to 10 years. He is always helpful, quickly forwards concerns on when he isn't personally here, and makes us aware of issues as soon as possible. The Lansing Police Department is a leader and innovator in community policing. Officer Royst embodies our core values and helps to push LPD's mission to those in our city by treating everyone he encounters with dignity and respect, furthering our reputation and legitimacy within our community. Officer Royst is a consummate professional who never complains and is willing to sacrifice his time and talents to improve matters for everyone he encounters. He is the prime example of what all our employees, civilian or sworn, should strive to emulate. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Officer Dylan Royst is awarded the department's Community Excellence Award. Mr. Carlton Valentine. Over the last 2 years, the Lansing Police Athletic League, LPD PAL, I like that name, has slowly become more prevalent in the LPD's community policing initiative. LPD PAL puts an emphasis on engaging our LPD officers with kids and with the community in a positive and safe environment. These events are completely free of charge and are aimed to draw in the local Lansing area youth. Events like this would not be possible without the support from volunteer members in the community. In October of 2019, LPD PAL hosted its first ever LPD PAL basketball skills and drills clinic with the leadership of Coach Carlton Valentine. Coach Valentine, widely known as Coach V, played basketball at the renowned DeMartha Catholic High School before he was recruited by Coach Tom Izzo to play basketball at Michigan State University. Coach V played at MSU from 1984 to 1988 and continued his basketball career professionally with the Illinois Express. After his own career, Coach V was the head coach at Lansing Sexton High School for a number of years. He led the Big Reds to the state finals 3 years in a row from 2010 to 2012. In short, Coach V has a wealth of knowledge in the game of basketball and graciously volunteered his time to come and run the camp. He was also able to see the value of having police involved and further conveyed our community policing message to those in attendance. Coach V has been an extremely valuable asset to the department, and his time and dedication has provided another way to connect with the youth of the city. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Mr. Carlton Valentine is awarded the department's Community Excellence Award. Officer Jennifer Pung, Officer Rachel Ball. The Lansing Police K-9 team requires not only the correct K-9 for the job, but the correct handler to be placed with that K-9 in order to create a team capable of successfully completing the difficult tasks placed before them. K-9 teams are responsible for tracking, building searches, area searches, article and firearm searches, and handler and officer protection. K-9 teams are also tasked with either explosives or narcotics detection. Whether the team is searching a building for an armed suspect or tracking for a lost child, handlers and their partners are placed on the front lines and often looked to when other attempts to locate the individuals are unsuccessful or put officers in added jeopardy. Canine teams often face severe elements, long hours, and the possibility of being called upon during their off time in order to achieve a successful resolution to the task at hand. These teams train for countless hours, both on and off duty, to keep their skills sharp for when they're called into service. Not only do our canine teams provide a service to the department, but also to the community as a whole. Canine teams often bridge the gap between the police and the community when they provide demonstrations at public events, which is always great to see. Our teams also provide safety and security to our many public events that are held in the area. Once assigned to the canine unit, handlers not only add to their duties as an officer, but change their lifestyle as a whole. Handlers, along with their canine partners, create a bond that can only be fully understood by another handler. These teams serve an extremely valuable role, and their service is a tribute to the Lansing Police Department and the citizens of Lansing. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Officer Jennifer Pung and Officer Rachel Ball are awarded the department's Canine Service Award for 5 years of dedicated service. Officer Eric Boswell, Lieutenant Eric Prattle. The Lansing Police Department Special Tactics and Rescue Team, START, provides a specialized law enforcement service to the department and community beyond the capabilities of ordinary law enforcement. Being a START member is a high-risk position that requires the officer to perform at their full potential in a moment's notice. START officers are subjected to performing hazardous and difficult tasks involving continuous risk to their safety and others. The sacrifices that START members make are great, but knowing their personal and professional courage will resolve a crisis is an honored feeling. START Officer Eric Boswell and Lieutenant Eric Prattle are commended for their dedication and commitment to both the Lansing Police Department and the citizens of Lansing for providing such a valuable service. Officer Boswell's loyalty, dedication, and contribution to the team has resulted in the successful resolution of 100 high-risk operations. Lieutenant Prattle's loyalty, dedication, and contribution to the team has resulted in the successful resolution of 200 high-risk operations. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Officer Eric Boswell and Lieutenant Eric Prattle are awarded the department's START Service Award. Officer Damian Manson, Officer Dale Person, Officer Remsen Jack, Sergeant Julie Thomas, Detective Ryan Smith, Detective Martha McGonigal, Detective Garrett Hamilton, Detective Robert McBride, Sergeant Tony Sandoval, and Sergeant Brent Sorg. Lansing Police Department School Resource Officer assignment. That assignment requires a unique person. The drive, initiative, and leadership needed to hold this special assignment does not come easily among most officers. Several LPD officers have been honored to serve in this capacity since the position's inception in 2006. All officers that have held this assignment have done so with the utmost dignity and integrity, gaining the respect from the students they engage with, which I can imagine is not easy, on a daily basis. These LPD officers fostered better relationships between the public and law enforcement, reinforcing positive behaviors and connecting with youth in the city of Lansing. The officers have acted in the capacity with the student body not only as police officers, but mentors, educators, counselors, and as leaders. The officers made significant contributions to Lansing schools and communities while providing safety and preventing crime. On behalf of the LPD, all school resource officers are recognized for their continued dedication to the City of Lansing, Lansing School District, and the Lansing Police Department, and dedicated mentorship to the future leaders of our community. So on behalf of the Lansing Police Department, these officers, sergeants, and detectives are awarded the Service Recognition Award. Officer Robert Forbes, Officer John Cosme, Officer Andrew Waldrop, Officer Hannah Robeson, Officer Tanner Lewandowski, Officer Brent Erk, Detective Quincy Scroggins, Sergeant Nick Hewitt, East Lansing Police Department Officer David Stolfus, ATF Special Agent Steve Bailey, Eaton County Sheriff's Office Detective Rick Buxton, Ingham County Sheriff's Office Detective Ryan Kramer, Michigan State University Police Department Detective Daniel Mott, Michigan State Police Trooper Rachel Ramey, Trooper Taylor Klotz, Trooper Jacob Fairchild, Trooper John Brady, MSP Sergeant John Fascio, Michigan Department of Corrections Agent Nancy Hamilton, ATF Special Agent Heidi Wallace, and FBI Agent Whitney Coffin. In 2019, the Violent Crime Initiative, VCI, that team, experienced a record year for gun seizures. As of the current date, VCI has seized a total of 115 firearms, of which consisted of 86 handguns and 29 long guns. Along with firearms seizures, VCI was able to arrest several violent, high-profile offenders and have them charged with both state and federal level cases. The unit's success was due to countless hours both on duty and off duty, researching and studying crime patterns, data, and focusing on the most violent subjects in the city of Lansing. In addition, demonstrating great restraint and patience while waiting for the best opportunities to be effective on reducing violent crime. Often unnoticed and not in the spotlight, the unit spent hours running down and following up on leads, countless phone calls, and extensive time using the computer. 2019 VCI's success would not have happened without the professional partnership with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives and the FBI. Due to extreme tenacity, perseverance, and outstanding police work, the officers assigned to this unit set a benchmark for years to come. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, these officers, detectives, sergeants, troopers, agents, and special agents are awarded the department's Unit Commendation. Sergeant Michael Van Beek, Officer Donovan Moore. On July 10th, 2019, officers Michael Van Beek and Donovan Moore were dispatched to the 1500 block of Redwood Street to meet with a resident regarding the destruction of their property. Upon arrival, officers acquired personal information and an address on the suspect. While en route to the suspect's address, they noticed that he had multiple outstanding arrest warrants. Both officers made contact with the suspect and an unknown female at his front door, where he immediately became uncooperative. They advised the suspect he was under arrest for his warrants. Well, the suspect became combative and resisted their attempts to take him into custody. All three ended up in the living room of the residence, where the female started to intervene with the arrest. At this point, a second male subject, emerged from somewhere inside the home and shoved Officer Van Beek backwards. Officer Van Beek was able to take the subject to the floor and was in the process of handcuffing him when the original subject reappeared. Both subjects overpowered Officer Van Beek and were able to force him out the front door and onto the wooden porch. Well, as the subjects re-entered the house, Officer Moore attempted to take the original subject into custody. Officer Moore pulled the subject onto the back porch. However, the subject was able to break free of his grip as they were going down the stairs toward level ground. Now, at this point, the suspect ran at Officer Moore and tackled him down the stairs. During this process, Officer Moore sustained a severely broken ankle, immobilizing him. The subject kicked Officer Moore in the head several times as he retreated to the house. Dazed and severely injured on the ground, Officer Moore radioed for help. Quickly, Officer Van Beek came to the aid and helped Officer Moore to a safe location as additional backup units arrived. The 3 subjects inside the house eventually surrendered after an intense negotiation process between the Lansing Police Tactical Team. This incident highlights both officers' abilities to think and respond quickly when presented with immediate danger, and it also goes to show how fast a minor infraction or typical warrant arrest can turn into a life-threatening situation. Both officers acted heroically in this situation, and they exemplify displaying valor in the face of peril. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Officer Donovan Moore is awarded the department's Police Heart Award. And on behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Sergeant Michael Van Beek is awarded the department's Distinguished Service Medal. Officer Robert McBride, Officer Dale Person. The Lansing Police Department has a team of specially trained officers who are certified to deliver a youth-focused, evidence-based, law enforcement-led life skills curriculum called GREAT, which is the perfect name. It stands for Gang Resistance, Education, and Training. GREAT officers are required to receive federal training facilitated by the Institute for Intergovernmental Research to be able to instruct the program in the school environment. GREAT officers teach and mentor youth through a series of lessons that deal with communication, goal setting, decision making, anger management, conflict resolution, and learning how they fit in with the various communities that make up their neighborhood. It is customary that when GREAT team members are actively involved in the program for an accumulation of 3 years, to present those officers with this recognition for their sacrifices and contributions to this highly constructive community outreach initiative. GREAT team members use their specialized training to help amplify LPD's existing community policing efforts. Through innovation, community networking, and trauma-informed engagement strategies, officers build relationships with youth and families and serve as force multipliers for the department's police legitimacy. It can take up to 2 years of experience for an officer to develop proficiency in the GREAT program and fully grasp how to integrate the program into community policing efforts on multiple levels. GREAT instructors must display strong passion for engaging the community, and membership on the team requires a willingness to work on trainings, projects, presentations, and community events outside of normal scheduled work hours. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Officer Robert McBride and Officer Dale Person are awarded the GREAT Longevity Service Award. Lansing Board of Police Commissioner Drew Macon. Mr. Drew Macon was appointed by the Mayor of Lansing as Lansing Police Commissioner in May of 2012. He is a retired Lansing Police Department Sergeant and a current Special Agent Supervisor with the Michigan Attorney General's Office. While serving on the board, Drew was elected to be the chairperson. Drew spent much of his time providing excellent leadership, professional communication, as well as his vast knowledge of law enforcement and city government. Drew took pride in his law enforcement roots and continued to take an active role in the recruitment and hiring task force committee for the Lansing Police Department. He also participated on the interview panel for numerous new police department candidates. As a commissioner, and since, Drew has dedicated his time to making the community of Lansing a better city and encouraging all law enforcement to remain professional and commit to protect and serve the city of Lansing, especially during the numerous calls of service, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the protests and social unrest that has occurred. After serving 8 years on the Lansing Police Board of Commissioners, Drew Macon retired in June of 2020. On behalf of the men and women of the Lansing Police Department, Drew Macon is awarded the department's Service Recognition Award. Lansing Board of Police Commissioner Sandra Kawak Thompson. Ms. Sandra Kawak Thompson was appointed by Lansing Mayor David Hollister to the Lansing Police Board of Commissioners in July of 2000. Sandra has served as the board chairperson on 2 occasions, and during her 20 years of dedicated service on the board, she has worked as the Director of Development at the Boys and Girls Club of Lansing. While on the board, Sandra has played a role in many historical events at the Lansing Police Department, such as the swearing-in ceremonies of newly appointed police chiefs Mike Yankowski and Daryl Green, attending and representing the board for 20 years of department promotions and retirements as well. Sandra always brought the highest level of professionalism and dedication while serving on the board. Her continued drive to hold the men and women of the Lansing Police Department to the highest level has proven why the department has been labeled Capital City's finest. After serving the community of Lansing for 20 years, Sandra retired from the board in May of 2020. On behalf of the men and women of the Lansing Police Department, Sandra Kawak Thompson is awarded the department's Service Recognition Award. Lansing Board of Police Commissioner Robert Nordhook. Mr. Robert Nordhook was appointed by the City of Lansing Mayor to the Lansing Police Board of Commissioners in April of 2004. Over his tenure, Bob has had the privilege to serve with 3 Lansing City mayors, all of which shared Bob's passion and dedication for all citizens in the City of Lansing. During his 16 years as a board member, Bob served as the chairperson as well as the vice chairperson. He had the pleasure of serving with a devoted group of individuals who have always taken their responsibility as a citizen review board member seriously and have endeavored to be a relevant body of perspective for the residents of Lansing. Bob expressed in this ever-changing and unpredictable society that it is more important than ever to have a strong partnership and communication link between law enforcement and the citizens within a community. Bob's communication skills, ability to analyze important aspects of an issue, and his common sense approach to problem solving were his strongest assets as a board member. After serving the community of Lansing for 16 years, Bob retired from the board in May of 2020. On behalf of the men and women of the Lansing Police Department, Robert Nordhook is awarded the department's Service Recognition Award. At this point in the ceremony, I'm going to welcome back Chief Green to present the last 2 very special awards. It has been my pleasure to help show you just how amazing the LPD is and the people who work for and with this department. So thank you all so much, and congratulations to all the award winners. Chief Green.
In 2017, Lyon Roberts, a recent retiree from the public school system, began his second career with the Lansing Police Department as the department's chief data administrator. Lyon's first major project was the implementation of the state's record management system, better known as SRMS. Lyon worked tirelessly at addressing related data complaints, hardships, and technical shortcomings concerning the system amongst all the department users. He further worked with the program developers on technical areas that needed to be corrected and repaired to minimize data flaws and increase overall police productivity. Familiarizing and becoming proficient with the myriad of LPD data systems, Lyon has accommodated many of our department units by creating reports automatically with the information that matters the most for them. He has also participated and led efforts with the state of Michigan and various software manufacturers to address concerns from department employees and administrative staff regarding criminal data. Lyon is always willing to take on additional tasks, projects, and to help other people meet their objectives. Lyon volunteered to assist with the implementation of a newly invested intelligence program. He met on a weekly basis with the company to address issues and update the department's progress on the implementation. Lyon is responsible for administrating all of the department's software programs. Knowing the department operates 24/7, Lyon makes himself available to address any issues or problems. It's often common to see emails late into the evening relating to the software fixes, expected software delays, and data resolutions related to our computer systems. It is evident that Lyon truly cares about the success of our department, and he is very passionate about his responsibilities. The common themes with Lyon are: he cares and takes pride in his responsibilities and his coworkers' ability to use the software programs he administers. He is also a problem solver and truly demonstrates his ability to cut to the heart of technology issues and navigate the best solution for our department. Lion's dedication, commitment, and team player attitude are impressive and deserving of recognition. He has been an amazing addition to the Lansing Police Department and is a large but silent component to the department's success. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Mr. Lion Roberts is awarded the Civilian of the Year Award.
Congratulations, Lion, and thank you very much for your service. Civilian of the Year, Mr. Lion Roberts.
Thank you, Chief. I very much appreciate the work and the group I work with in Lansing Police Department. It's a wonderful team to work with. I appreciate them very much. I humbly thank you for this award. Appreciate it very much. I couldn't have done it without the support of my family, my wife, as well as my team members I work with every day. It's a wonderful group, as I said once before, and look forward to many more years of service. Thank you.
Detective Quincy Scroggins has been assigned to the Violent Crime Impact Team for the last 2 years, operating as a task force officer through the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Detective Scroggins utilized his vast experience in solving several intricate serial armed robbery rings in the city of Lansing. These cases consisted of grueling hours of legwork and time away from his family. Meticulous attention to detail and reporting were crucial and present in every aspect of his cases, which led to several successful arrests. The real work of a complex robbery investigation begins once they have been charged and are in custody. After that, ongoing proffers, interviews, witness and evidence management, and detailed documentation of the cases are required. Detective Scroggins made it seem easy with how well he was able to handle 2 very significant serial armed robberies in the Lansing area. The first one being the 21K group, whom were responsible for multiple violent crimes, including homicide, attempted murder, carjacking, bank robbery, armed robberies, 13 breaking and enterings, and multiple stolen vehicles. This led to criminal cases against 15 individuals that were directly connected with associated violent criminal activity. The second case was ultimately dubbed the Everlast Robberies. These robberies consisted of multiple suspects who were responsible for robbing 8 convenience stores over the span of 3 months. These suspects were responsible for thousands of dollars in stolen money and multiple assaults. Detective Scroggins was able to identify the accused vehicle and ultimately the subjects involved through his investigation. The suspects were arrested and are currently awaiting trial in federal court. Aside from these significant cases, the most important thing that should be mentioned about Detective Scroggins is the empathy he displays for crime victims and the passion in which he investigates crime. Detective Scroggins is the consummate professional with very effective communication skills. Detective Scroggins always has time, no matter how busy, to mentor our younger officers and detectives. He always treats his coworkers and, more importantly, the public with the highest level of respect. Detective Scroggins' attitude and conduct should serve as a model to anyone in this organization on how to conduct yourself. Detective Scroggins seems to take a lot of pride in disseminating his knowledge onto others and was always doing what was best for everyone, including this organization. On behalf of the Lansing Police Department, Detective Quincy Scroggins is awarded the department's Officer of the Year Award.
Congratulations, Detective Scroggins. Unfortunately, he was unable to make it today, and our hearts go out to him and his family, and we wish him a great retirement. Thank you again for allowing us to recognize our awardees. They have demonstrated the highest level of professionalism, empathy, and compassion for the city of Lansing, and our hearts go out to them and their family members for their dedication and service. Thank you very much, and congratulations, awardees. We will have a full list of the awards on our social media platform and websites for you all to review those as well. At this time, I would like for our chaplain, Pastor Chaplain Rosalinda Hernandez, to step forward and present us with our benediction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. If you could please bow your heads with me. Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for the ceremony that we just had. We thank you, Lord, for the men and women that have dedicated their life to this department. We ask you, Lord, to bless them, to protect them, to keep them in all their ways. We thank you, Lord, that you keep us as a city and as a nation. We ask you now, Lord, to keep everyone as they go home. We ask for your protection. We thank you, Lord, for your blessing on the Lansing Police Department. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.